So Lanterns episode 1 is here, and it looks like the show is off to a great start. Now coming into this, I have a grand total of 0 experience with Lanterns, Green Lantern, this whole lore and these characters. And so while I've seen a lot of people online who have reservations about the show because it seems to be tonally a little bit different from what people might expect from Green Lantern, I have none of that. I have none of that baggage, and I'm truly coming in here just watching this as a brand new TV show. Like, this is my introduction to these characters, to this world, to the powers, the lore, all of it. And as a first episode of a TV show, I think this was very successful. For no other reason other than when the episode ended, the show did what a great first episode of TV should do, which is it made me sad that I had to wait 7 more days to see what happens next. Like, when the credits rolled, I was genuinely like, oh, no, because I was so intrigued and curious about this mystery that they've set up. Now, obviously, we seem to be doing this very interesting decade thing where it seems like every 10 years, something big happens. We start off in 1996, and we get a little bit of backstory on Hal and John as a kid, and then the main story is taking place in 2016 with a flash forward towards the end of the episode to 2026. And I guess we should start with the 2026 flash forward because that is probably the most intriguing thing going into next week, which is that it seems like Hal Jordan is dead. And look, I don't know to what degree that will stick. This is a comic book show after all, and perhaps there's some magical, timey-wimey explanation or some resurrection or something that will happen. Again, I am completely unfamiliar with the lore here, but simply jumping ahead 10 years at the end of this episode just builds in such a level of intrigue over what has taken place over the past 10 years and how did we get to this point. And honestly, it just has me really excited going forward about seeing this non-linear telling of the story. Like, obviously, in the first episode, we stuck very close to the 2016 timeline, but it'll be interesting going forward to see if we do more of a back and forth between 2026 and 2016. And it'll be interesting to see how those two different storylines will inform each other or maybe even come together towards the end. I'm not sure how it'll all play out, but very, very intriguing. Now, this being the first episode, it did give us our first look at so many things about the show, and the first thing I have to say is HBO, man. Like, if there's one thing that should give you confidence about this show, is that it is HBO. And when the episode started and that HBO logo popped off, I don't know, but it just gives you a level of confidence like, okay, this is probably going to be quality. And watching the show, you can tell that this is HBO. The production value is great. It feels like a quote-unquote prestige television show. And even tonally, while this is a superhero show, it fits in with the more mature vibe that HBO tends to have. And it will be interesting going forward to see how does this fit into the greater DC universe, because tonally, this is a more grounded show, and it does feel different when you compare it to something like Superman. And even things like the amount of swearing in this episode, or even just having a sex scene in here, does make me question, like, are we believably going to be able to take these characters from the show and then pop them over into something like a Superman sequel, which I believe we already know is happening because Jon Stewart is apparently confirmed to show up in Man of Tomorrow. So it will be very interesting to see to what degree that happens, but I'm open-minded to it, especially after Spider-Man Brand New Day, a movie that brought in a character like Punisher into a PG-13 Spider-Man flick in a way that, for the most part, I thought worked pretty naturally. I do think that they could pull off something similar here. Now, the thing that confused me most about this episode is probably what Jon Stewart's dad's relationship is to this whole Lanterns thing. Because clearly, it seems like he's been raising John, even asking him the question at the beginning of the episode of, are you afraid, before he shoots a literal apple off his head, which is some wild parenting. But even further on in the episode, John is literally calling him, talking about his lantern training, so does the dad have some connection to the whole lantern mythology? Does he know something? Why was he raising his son to be prepared for this? Like, I don't know if I'm missing something here because I'm just totally brand new to this world, but I didn't fully understand the connection there. Now, of course, the two stars of the show are John and Hal. And right off the jump, I really like their dynamic. When it comes to John, there's something interesting about his character in the sense that he's clearly not on board with everything that Hal does, but at the same time, there's still something about him that shows a level of respect for his superior in the situation. And I did think it was interesting that when we got to the end of the episode and we learned he really does respect him deep down, even if on the surface they seem very different. The same thing goes for Hal, where I like that they portrayed him with a level of nuance. On the surface, he does seem like a character who's kind of loose, doesn't care about anything, but at the same time, like we see in the interrogation scene, he is actually pretty clever, and I like that. I like when shows don't take it too far with making a joke out of the supposed older, wiser character, and I like when they remind you, no, there's a reason why this person is where they are. When it comes to Hal, though, it's also interesting to see what has happened that has made him into the 2016 version of himself. Because when we get the hologram, or halogram, as the show cleverly puts it, of his consciousness from 10 years prior, he's clearly very different. He seems more caring, he seems more sensitive, so I do hope we get into the backstory of, like, what has happened over the past 10 years that has changed him so much. And yeah, guys, the biggest thing with this episode is simply the intrigue and the mystery that they're building out. The whole mystery behind why Hal has this consciousness of himself from 10 years ago, telling him about Rushville, Nebraska, and what exactly he's looking for. And even when we get there, the way in which the scene plays out, where they basically identify one of the aliens are still on the field, and the whole chase sequence from there, I thought was really, really well done. The visuals of the powers in here also looked really good to me, and I don't know if it's just me, but I thought the way in which the powers were visualized felt kind of real, which is a weird thing to say about a glowing ring creating objects in midair, but there's something about it that didn't break the immersion of this otherwise very grounded show, which is sometimes something that can happen when you have a show that is otherwise very grounded and then you have this supernatural element. It can often break the immersion, but here, every time he would use the powers, there was something about the way that it looked that just felt very tangible to me, that it fit right in. The funniest part of the episode, though, is when he's on the ranch and he's telling the little boy, like, oh, just imagine the ball going in. The way I was going into your grandma. Now, the interrogation scene at the end was a real standout where Hal gets to show off his cleverness, and he's questioning him about all these specific stats, but the way he finds him out is that he can't answer questions about Harry Potter, and then he asks his opinion on Obama, and he's like, you're from rural Nebraska, and that's the extent of your opinion on Obama? Nah, wrap it up. This guy's definitely an alien. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all of my thoughts on Lanterns Episode 1. What did you guys think about it? Was it a good first episode? Did it have you hooked? Whatever you thought, let me know down in the comments. As always, click somewhere on the screen to watch another video, and hopefully I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.